I don't know if anybody knows what movie that's from, but that's pretty much every fighting movie in our American history. That's our theme song. If you hear that song playing in a movie, understand you are about to get your ass kicked if you're not with us. That is the Fortunate Son soundtrack. Actually, I think the movie's from Full Metal Jacket, from pretty much all of them. But we're going to see some developments. Right now, the Mexican Senate has approved the deployment of U.S. Special Forces to come to Mexico for the purpose of training. And you know what that means. The cartels are going to be trained on how to rest peacefully. Unfortunately, I'm not the kind of person that feels that the cartels are necessarily the problem. In my opinion, if I have to have an unbiased, unemotional opinion, the problem is the demand. There is a demand for drugs. Drugs are most people's escape. Cigarettes are a drug. Alcohol is a drug. Everything's a drug. Big pharma sells us drugs. And think about it. They want to put your kids on drugs that blocks their puberty. So your son will have a micro penis and end up, doing suicide or deleting himself before he turns 30. Those are drugs too. But it seems like the party drugs have been targeted lately with something called fentanyl, which is a huge problem. Even though fentanyl is actually a pharmaceutical drug they use when they have to put you in a state of paralysis, or if they have to put you into a coma, it's a sedative in a way. So it is used for medical purposes. But when you're sliding it into bricks of party stuff that kids are taking, or people that are just having a good time and they're just dying. I'm from Los Angeles. I'm in Texas. Everyone does the same amount of drugs. I thought in LA we were just wild. No. Everyone does drugs everywhere you go, but you don't see them just dropping like flies everywhere. In Los Angeles, I've had so many personal friends. I remember just waking up and I'm in the lobby of my apartment building and there's a paramedic and they're just taking out 4 bodies. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, was it a gas leak? And no, one of them bought a bag of some party white, went upstairs with his friends. Everybody blew a couple of lines and then they all just passed away together. That's a problem. I'm a regular person. And if I know more than 30 people that have passed away suddenly while doing that, imagine what other people from different communities, and I'm not even deep in like that. In Los Angeles, people that look like me don't really do powder. We don't mess with that stuff. Usually they smoke weed. But if I know a lot of people, that means that other people know a lot more. And then people are embarrassed sometimes, so they'll say that their relative died of a heart attack, or they'll make up some other excuse because they don't want to tell you that they overdosed. They don't want to admit that. And I've seen that happen too. But it's a huge problem. And what we're being told is that the source of it is Chinese, the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, is shipping it to Mexico. And they are working out an agreement where the Mexican cartels actually have to mix it in with the white powder that they already sell here. That's a deal they're making with them, and they're paying them apparently to poison us. I mean, hundreds of thousands have passed away in the past few years just from this poisoning of these drugs alone. And now they're poisoning other stuff too. So it's really dangerous to do anything, especially if you're on the West Coast. If you're in Los Angeles, if you're in Phoenix, if you're in Las Vegas, because it's a different port than the one in Texas and the ones in Florida, you're going to be exposed to higher levels of contaminated drugs. And even the people that are selling it to you don't know. The people that are selling it to them don't know. They mix it in there where even if you test it, unless you test exactly where it's at, somewhere in the middle, you won't know it's there. So now it's time for us to kick ass. We have no choice. We have to shut down all production. We have to shut down we have to limit the entry from the Mexican side of the border as much as possible. Apparently, it's not a huge issue in the American Northeast or the Midwest, so we cannot say that it's actually the fentanyl coming in from China, coming in from Canada. Apparently, it looks like it's specifically something that they've worked out with the cartels in Mexico. We've sourced the contamination, and it looks like the Sinaloa cartel is going to be the first one to go down, and then they're going to be going after the, let's see here. They actually have a list. Let's see here. Yeah, the Sinaloa, and then they're going to go after the Gulf, Los Zetas, La Familia Michoacan, and the Knights Templar cartel. That is a hell of a name to have for a Mexican drug cartel. The Knights Templar? Seems like they got some rules. But guess what? They get to test all of their might, their strength, their weapons, their capabilities against an actual trained men. As far as I can tell, when you see it's a lot of innocent people, a lot of reporters, but also in the last Mexican election before they elected this Jewish lady, which is a strange thing when it's a Catholic country, there were 30-something assassinations of people that were running for president of Mexico. So how did she survive? It seems like the cartels wanted her in there. And I guess the president, the Senate, it seems like the Mexican Senate went around the president to give this clearance, but it wouldn't matter anyway. Whether you gave us clearance or not, what are you going to do if we come? What are you going to do anyway? It's not like we really needed your permission. We were going to come into Mexico and kick ass regardless if you guys said we have no permission. Well, who's going to stop us? You can't even stop the cartels. You can't even get Tijuana together. How are you going to deal with an American Green Beret that shows up and puts a camouflage boot in that hot tortilla ass? There's nothing you can really do about it. So I guess the Senate of the Mexican Senate saying that they're giving permission for us to come train people, I guess it's just a formality just to say that they give us permission. But I don't recall us asking. They didn't ask us if they can send over poison that can kill all of our friends and family members. They're not asking for permission about that. And it really amped up these last 4 years. So something has to be done. Trump's making the right move. Besides, all you Democrats and liberals were begging, screaming for war in Ukraine. You guys wanted us to send troops over there, right? You wanted your pound of flesh. Well, now you're going to get it. Except it's not going to be on the other side of the world. It's going to be in our southern backyard. It might affect you. It will affect you. Matter of fact, it might affect the family of the illegals that are coming over here that you're crying and screaming about being deported. Yeah, it's going to affect them. So you got to be careful what you wish for. The genie is not going to always give you exactly what you want, but the genie will give you what you need. You wanted to see war in the Ukraine. You wanted us to send American troops over there to the freaking meat grinder of the Russian Federation. Are you insane? They have a weapon called the Oreshnik that can literally level entire cities in under 30 seconds. You wanted us to send our boys, our men, our troops to the Ukraine, where not one of you damn Democrats or liberals can even find it on a map. None of you can name 2 regions in the Ukraine on a list. You couldn't even name 2 of them, but you want to send people over there to die? No. You definitely know Mexico. You can name some parts of Mexico. Now you will see what war is. War is hell. I know war is hell. I have family members that have fought in wars, and they were never the same. As a man, it's when you see women politicians screaming about battles that they know they will never have to serve or die in, it disgusts me. That's why personally, I don't even believe in women politicians that have that kind of sway or power, because they are not going to be on the front lines. I am, if worse come to worse. Right now in the Ukraine, They're considering drafting women because they've ran out of men, fighting age men. They ran out of them a long time ago. Now they're conscripting men that are in their 60s, 60 years old. And they're taking you and throwing you on the front line into what the Russian Federation calls the meat grinder, because they just grind them up and spit it out. They have actually a system where they kind of, they push you into a certain area, and it's just like they're just sending wave and wave of men to slaughter, just because they're pretending that they think they can weaken the Russian Federation. The Russian Federation's in a war economy. They're making their own ammunition. They're making their own missiles. We're not. We're depending on private contractors to do so, and they're not making them. So the war over there would just be a suicide mission for us. Let's be 1,000% honest. All of NATO, which we were once a part of, got their asses kicked the last 3 years in the Ukraine. They find bodies of men from the UK, the U.S., special forces from Australia, New Zealand, France, a lot of the French Foreign Legion. They're being wiped systematically. We didn't stand a snowball's chance in hell. 30 countries in NATO, 32 if you add the U.S. and Canada, which are not even on the continent, but if you add us in there, 32 NATO nations could not handle the Federation, which is just one. But we can take Mexico. Yeah, we'll beat the dog shit out of Mexico. But the thing is, once the cartels are down, then what? There's going to be a power vacuum. What do? Let the corrupt Mexican government take it over and then just rebuild a new cartel that they run? I think we're going to have to, we're not good at nation building, but we can definitely occupy something. If northern Mexico can't be controlled by the Mexican government successfully, then we might have to occupy the whole Baja Peninsula. It's beautiful beachfront property. It's prime real estate. The infrastructure could be repaired. I've been all throughout Mexico. It's a beautiful country. That's why when people are getting deported and their kids are in America, like crying and screaming, "My dad!" And if you're really a good daughter, if you're really a loving wife and your significant other gets deported, you deport with them. You don't let them just leave. America's not Elysium. It's great, but you can go make somewhere else great too. It's not the only country on earth. America is not the only option. Now you can go to Mexico and live a pretty normal life. You don't have to scream and cry on the internet about if your dad's being deported and you love your dad. I have family members that have been deported. We went down there to go visit, and some of us stayed. We went. You also, if you're a good relative, you can go. But if you're afraid to give up your laugh of luxury, then maybe you're not that great of a daughter. You're not that great of a son. You're not that amazing of a relative. Maybe you're just another asshole American. It's okay to be an asshole American. There's a lot of us. I too have my asshole tendencies. So I'm not saying that I'm any better than anybody, but it's time for us to go kick ass. And, Mexico has been in the fuck around portion of this campaign for the last few years. This is when the find out part starts. So this is a little reel that is for the soldiers that want to sign up. This is what you're going to be joining. All right. Would it be better while we're watching this video if I mute it and then we just... See, if you put Fortunate Son on any of these military videos, it makes them like 1,000 times more cooler. Yes. I guess I do have the whole song. I just keep stopping. Sorry. Now, as far as I know, the Mexican cartel has night vision goggles. Well, Mr. Cartel Man, be on the lookout for these. Excuse me, Senor Cartelli. Be on the lookout for a bunch of fucking Americans with an axe to grind who are now finally being used to protect our own country. Could you imagine? You sign up for the military expecting to protect America, right? Then they ship you off somewhere nowhere near America, and you're expected to go there and literally and risk your life and die, and you have no idea what you're over there for. And then we wonder why people want to off themselves. Well, I mean, think about it. You just dedicated your life to a bunch of corporate interests. At least if the corporate interests have aligned with our interests in protecting our borders, at least it makes a little bit more sense. You got to make it make sense sometimes. Look at this, night vision. So let's see here. What are the let's see here. What is the size of the what are the size of these I wonder what's the size of the cartel? Let's see here. How big are the Mexican drug cartels? Let's see here. Mexican drug cartels are large organizations with a global presence, employing tens of thousands of people. Ooh, as of 2023, the year of our Lord, there's an estimated 175,000 people work for the drug cartels. The Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation cartels have an estimated 45,000 members, associates, and brokers in 100 countries. Okay, well, it seems like we're going to have our work cut out for us. The territory, the Sinaloa cartel has a presence in many Mexican regions, including Sinaloa, Baja, California, and Mexico City. That's a lot of that's far. Baja to Mexico City is like LA to New York. That's a lot of distance. Los Zetas cartel once had a large geographical presence, but has since become fragmented. I think they lost their leader. I remember when that happened. The Sinaloa cartel has a large and widespread international presence. I don't think we're going after the cartel around the world. I think we're just focused on the ones coming across. We're going to focus on northern Mexico. But, I mean, we're looking at 50,000, 100,000 probably in Mexico. Man, so this might not be actually, it might not be a walk in the park. Because I don't even think the Iraqi army was that big. I don't think the Taliban, when we invaded Afghanistan, I don't think they had a presence that large. And they are going to know the terrain better than we will. They do, and remember, on purpose, a lot of the weapons that we sent to the Ukraine magically ended up in the hands of the cartel. So it's not like they're going to be walking around in sandals and throwing rocks at you. These are going to be people that are going to be a formidable opponent. These are men who have been trained in other countries that are now mercenaries working for the cartels. They come in from Central America. They come from South America. Of course, they come from Europe. If they speak Spanish, they come from Spain. I'm sure they're recruiting. Man, if they think there's going to be a fight for drug money in Mexico, I would assume the cartels are going to come together temporarily, create a truce, and they're going to pay mercenaries from all over the world to come to northern Mexico to help defend their empire. That's the only option they have. You can't just roll over and just get your ass get burritos shoved up your ass all day. You're going to have to fight back. So this will not necessarily be, but see, then again, I don't know how long they've been planning this organizing to go into Mexico like this. It doesn't seem like this is something that is brand new. They're announcing to us that they're going in there now, but I would assume that if you look at how Trump's been operating the past 20 something 30 days since he's been president, it's been with laser precision. It seems as if Trump has spent the last 4 years preparing to become president for the next 8 years. Everything he's doing was like already pre-planned. If this invasion of the northern territories of Mexico to wipe out the cartel was already pre-planned, then they're going to be in for a ride. And then if any American soldiers die, God forbid, in these fights, do you know what that's going to do to the recruitment numbers in the United States? When I tell you, under a strong man, a strong male figure like Trump as your president, that restores faith and it brings back the glory of battle for a young man. I guarantee right now, they said last month was the strongest month for military recruitment in the past 15 years. If American soldiers start getting killed on the other side of the border, defending the United States from people that are bringing poison to our cities, our recruitment levels will literally skyrocket. We will never see an organization like this because it's finally for a good reason. Vietnam was not a good reason. The Korean War was not a good reason. In my opinion, World War II was nothing to do with us, and it wasn't a good reason. We were literally baited into these fights that, I mean, who's to say if we really won or not? Nobody can tell you that we won Iraq or Afghanistan. We didn't win in Korea. They're still in North Korea. So, I mean, but and a lot of people were against these wars. I don't think anybody's going to be against American soldiers going to help protect our cities from people that are poisoning us. But if we're going to go after people poisoning us, then that means that Monsanto, these companies with all the GMO, but then again, that's what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is doing. He's waging war on that front of poison, and Trump's going to do the poison when it comes to the drugs, which literally makes perfect sense to me. And I'm very proud to see that somebody is doing something. We've had weak leadership, no leadership. We've had a bunch of communists and Marxists and anti-American. And, if you wave an American flag, people look at you like you're the bad guy, like you're crazy. How in the hell am I a bad person waving a flag in my own country? It's crazy. Before the election happened in November, you knew who somebody was voting for if they had an American flag in their front yard. Like, shouldn't we all have an American flag in our front yard? The beautiful thing about this current administration is that we remind you and we give you the option. If you don't like it and you're not happy, leave. You don't agree with what we're doing, leave. Remember, never forget this. Trump's only the president of the United States. He's not the president of Mexico. You can go live under somebody else. You can go to Canada and live under Trudeau. I mean, if you're into the gay stuff, go for it. You can fly to Nigeria. You can fly to Ghana. Trump's not the president of any of those African countries. There's no racism there. There's no oppression. There's no white people. If those are your main issues, leave this land. This is not for you. It's not. And I'll be honest with you, if you're really a good family member or friend and somebody gets deported, you're an asshole if you don't go with them out of solidarity alone. If I was in a club, right? And just out of the blue, some security guard walks up to my buddy and says, "Hey, I don't like your hair. I don't like your skin color. I don't like something about you. You got to get the hell out of my club." But you know what, Rico? You're good. You hang out. If I sit there with my drink and say, "Oh man, well, I'll see you after," doesn't that make me an asshole? It makes me a horrible person. No, I'm supposed to put that drink down and say, "Sir, security, I'm not staying here. If he can't stay here, I'm leaving too." Everybody keeps telling me that immigrants made the country better. My family, I'm from an immigrant family as well. Okay, if immigrants are what made America great, then why do you guys want America? Why are we so lucky? Why does America have to have a monopoly on all the immigrants? If they're the ones making the country great, shouldn't we spread the wealth? Shouldn't we spread the immigrant wealth? Aren't we doing people a favor by deporting them back to their country? Now, the people that made us great can make you great. And our citizens who want to wave those other flags, they can go there and be great with you. It's basically, we're going to just compound greatness on top of greatness. That's what we're going to export. Immigrants to you, but they're your own people. But we're really just exporting. It's not even immigration. It's not even deportation anymore. We're just exporting greatness. That's the new word. I'm going to send an email to Tom Homan and tell him that you should not refer to this as deportation anymore. You're now just on a mission to export greatness, since immigrants are the source of the greatness in the United States, according to those signs that I keep seeing at these BS protests back in LA. So anyway, we basically are going to have our work cut out for us. I mean, think about it. In 4 years, 13,000 cartel members were killed. 129,000 cartel members detained. There's been a drug war going on. You know, when I used to live in Arizona, I remember going down and staying on a resort, but we had got pulled over by the cartels. In that, because if you're on your way to Rocky Point or Puerto Penasco, between the border and there, you got like an hour and a half drive just in the middle of the Mexican desert, and anything can happen. You can bump into federales, you can bump into the cartel, and you got to pay people to keep going. You know, anything can happen. There's really no law. You know, so but there are a lot of families. There's a lot of good people there. It's just they made it a point to purposely poison Americans, and that's a declaration of war already, in my opinion. If too many American soldiers get killed, then it will probably be an official declaration eventually, unless the Mexican government is helping us with fighting them. But if it turns out that the Mexican government is subservient to the cartels, then I mean, we couldn't just leave the government the way it is intact. We're going to have to, again, regime change. Now we're back to where we were in Afghanistan. You know, that's the problem when you start something like this. You have to use foresight to look down the road. Where will this lead to next? If we get into Mexico and the Mexicans allow us to take out their cartel members, what's to start the cartel from going and wiping out their own government and their own officials? They do it every day. They kill governors, mayors. Like I said, 30-something presidential candidates assassinated in Mexico. Let's see here. 2024 Mexico election assassinations. Let's see here. Who has, okay, right here, like I said, from September to May, Jesus Christ. So September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. In 9 months, 34 presidential candidates and aspiring candidates have been assassinated. That's just last year. Jesus, that's a lot of. We only had 6 people running for president. No, I don't even think we had 6 run for president. And they tried to take out Trump, but 34 successful assassinations. And you think that the people that they didn't assassinate that are in charge are the good guys that we can trust? Wouldn't they have already assassinated the good guys? You think they assassinate bad people? No, they assassinate the competition. These were the people that were running against the current president, the Jewish woman. Because you guys don't know it, but there's a Jewish president of Mexico that's a woman. So there's just like a ton of red flags already, but they basically wiped out all of her competition. That's how she became president. She works with the cartels. She works for them, alongside them. And they put her in charge because she was greenlighting, allowing the poison to come across our border. Once that becomes a well-known fact, what do we do about her? Do we leave her in power? We got to, I mean, if we're not going to go all the way, why even start? You know, there's no halfway crooks. You can't go 50% and then just stop. You got to go all the way. If we wipe out the cartels, what's going to replace them in the power vacuum? Because the demand for drugs in the U.S. is still going to be there. Are we just looking to take out the people that are facilitating the contamination with the fentanyl, or just all the drugs in general? And if we find out that the politicians that they left alive that survived, the ones who are now in power because they didn't get assassinated, if we find out that they're working for the cartels and we've already labeled them to terrorist organizations, what do we label the officials and what do we do about it? We can't just let them go and continue on with what they're doing. We're going to have to remove them. But then we put somebody else in place that's friendly to the United States and works with us. Well, then how is that going to be any different than what we did in the Ukraine in 2014? You know, the U.S. used USAID even back then to pay for civil unrest, revolutions, and basically an overthrow of the government. I believe his name was Viktor Yanukovych. 2014 was the elected president. He wasn't friendly to America. He wanted to actually do more work with the Russians. And I believe it was Victoria Nuland said, F no, you are going to work with us. And she ousted him, put him out. And then the American government decided who was going to be in the cabinets and be in charge. And then that's when Hunter Biden went to go work for Burisma. And that's when all the scandals started back in 2014. But we had to kind of build their own government. Are we going to have to do the same thing with Mexico? Are we ready? As the American public, are the people, for example, listening to this live, are you ready to be in charge of selecting who's going to run Mexico? We can, if the goal is to remove the terrorist cartels, if the terrorist cartels are embedded in the Mexican government, what we're telling you we have to do is we have to remove the Mexican government. The cartels are part of the government. So saying we're going after the cartel, that literally means we are also going after their government. But what do we do once we take it? Who do we put in power? The good thing is it's only right next door. The bad thing is I don't think this war will be over before Trump's out of office. This will be a real forever war. Because even the people that, think about it, the cartel members have families and friends. And if you're wiping them out, their kids are going to want vengeance. They're right there on our border. So that's why we're going to have to make sure the border is secure as hell, because the animosity coming from across it will be deadly. This might not necessarily go in our favor. And I think we should all expect that. Initially, wiping out the heads of these cartels, another person will pop up in charge because it's money. The cartels are not street corner drug dealers. These are multinational corporations. Entire companies are built around the money that comes in from drugs with the cartels, and they launder it. It's a major operation. I don't know if Trump understands that or how much intel he has, but I don't think this is going to be just, you cut off the heads of a couple of the leaders of these cartels, and then everybody else just drops all their ambitions for selling drugs and making money. That's not how it works in America. We will literally have to take Mexico. But once we take it, what do we do with it? I mean, I guess with all the money we're saving from not doing regime change all over the world and funding, funding sex changes for frogs in Bermuda, I guess we'll have enough money to rebuild the infrastructure of Mexico where they have clean water, no more Montezuma's revenge. And it would make sense that now it's called the Gulf of America, because if we take Mexico, now the entire Gulf is America. But would that mean the Mexican people will have a right to vote if we take or will it just be like Puerto Rico, where they're citizens, but they're not? It's kind of like when you give somebody a controller, like your little brother, but you're playing the game and the controller is unplugged and they're sitting there they're thinking they're playing, but they're really not. Like, will we have to do a situation like that? I don't know, but this is too many murders right here. This is just last year. A wave of political murders ahead of elections eats away at democracy. From September to May 34 candidates or aspiring candidates have been assassinated, with most killings linked to the drug cartels seeking to influence local elections. What that tells me is that the cartels own the politicians. Any of the living politicians are owned by the cartels. So what that means is that's a tall order. We're going to have to replace the politicians. But who do we put in their stead? The anybody who speaks out or makes themselves seem like they're influential in Mexico, you find them hanging from freeway overpasses a lot. So, I mean, in hundreds of thousands of soldiers and millions of people. I mean, this might be hairy. I don't know if our troops will. I mean, do we understand what this is going to take? But if we bring soldiers back from the 1,100 useless military bases we have all over the world, and we bring them back here to our border to enforce northern Mexico and take it, create like a buffer zone where nothing can get through, drugs can't pass, the tunnels and all those, the infrastructure is removed, we're going to need our troops to come home. Having 50,000 in Kaiserslautern and K-Town in Germany, or the ones in Seoul, or our troops that are just stationed in Britain and all these places where we're not doing anything, just sitting around wasting money on keeping these bases open. If we brought those troops back here and we put them on the border, and then we gradually worked our way down into Mexico through the peninsula, through all the way to Mexico City, we can take it, we can control that area, and then we can literally limit how much of the drugs are getting through. But for long-lasting stability with this new age of dismembering the cartels, we are going to have to prepare to occupy Mexico. Do me a favor, share this video, like and subscribe. I'm going to go through the comments, and we'll see our response, everybody, shortly. If you're on YouTube, like the video, subscribe. This is a live that I'm doing right now. It's not edited or anything. I'm not monetized, so I only have a couple of sponsors. So please just send the video around. And if you have any input, leave it in the comments, and I'll address all of them. Thank you, and I'll be back shortly with another segment in about 20 minutes. Thank you.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.